And that means it's time for the HPPO show. I'd like to welcome you all to the VOD or YouTube. Once I've cut this, put it up there. So welcome. Here on the HPPO show, we are doing live game development as well as topics we are discussing topics relevant to. Hello and welcome to the HPPO show. On today's episode, we are going to be discussing minimal viable product. Bands a la bed. Hello. Welcome to the HPPO show. We'll be discussing minimal viable product, Bartlett's taxonomy, and doing some game development live on stream. Welcome. So I got about 2 hours of which to run through these topics. So let's get right into our first topic. Our first topic is minimal viable product and what exactly that means. So a minimum viable product is the absolute bare minimum you need to be able to prove proof of concept and be able to ship. A prototype, as opposed to a prototype, which is just the concept or outline of what would work. So today we'll be going through a core gameplay loop of the 4-player card game that I'm developing, which is working title Freelander Adventure, and this 4-player card game will hopefully fall halfway between Munchkins and Dungeons and Dragons as far as complexity. So what exactly is a minimum viable product on this 4-player card game? Well, we're probably going to need just the cards and enough to ship. We'll need the cards, we'll need a rule set, and we'll need filler art, as well as dice. So for our minimal viable product, which will probably be ready for testing in June, we'll need to have the cards, the rule set, the filler art, the dice. I think the rule set is the most important, and the core gameplay loop, as well as the boss battles. Okay, so that is minimal viable product. So for the minimum viable product, we will just need those 4 things. The absolute bare minimum of what we'll be able to sell. And then, as I discussed yesterday, we'll hopefully be able to create some character classes, as well as flush out a design document for the core gameplay loop. Now, what is a core gameplay loop? A core gameplay loop is what you're primarily going to be doing in the game over and over and over again. Now, in this game, a cooperative 4-player card game, the core gameplay loop is probably going to shake out where Each player takes a turn. Each player takes a turn. They decide their actions. They decide their actions. Each player takes their turn. They decide their actions. They collect gear and power-ups. Gear and power-ups. And all of this is in preparation. All to prepare for epic monster combat. Each player takes a turn, decides their actions, collects gear and power-ups, all to prepare for epic monster combat. Epic monster combat will probably be a whole series in and of itself, because I have no idea how to do that. All I know is we essentially want the players to choose a class, whether it be Paladin, Cleric, Ranger, Bard, similar classes to D&D, complete quests, get gear. So in the game Munchkins, the players kick down a door and they get loot for defeating monsters, as well as other conditions that allow them to draw, and they use those cards to modify their character and power up so that they can defeat more monsters and level up further. First 1 to 10 levels wins in Munchkins. But Munchkins is a competitive experience and not a cooperative one. In this card game, I want it to be each player's turn is their choice individually. So each player's turn is their choice individually, and they collect gear or go on quests which end up in fighting monsters or completing social roles and other dice checks, win or lose, and then they get gear, and then they use that gear and their new levels and their feats to defeat the epic monster. After about I think 3 turns. Now this number may go up or down. This is just a filler. All to prepare for epic monster combat. Okay. So, for example, Jeff the Rogue takes a turn. Let's say he starts with 3 actions. And he decides to start with a quest. So, if we have a pile of quest cards in the center of the table that could range from anything to a charisma check or a combat encounter, just like each of the row takes a turn, starting with 3 actions. He decides to start with a quest. Or, okay, he can either draw a quest. He can either draw a quest, pick a piece of gear, learn a feat. Why not? There are no rules yet. He can learn Fireball, or learn how to jump higher, or learn something special like that. But at some point in time, we'll have to decide how many action points a quest will cost, how many action points it'll cost to get a pick of gear. Say, for instance, it takes 2 actions to pick a piece of gear. That might be better than allowing him to pick 3 pieces of gear per turn, because then why ever would he want to go on a quest and possibly risk something if he could just get rewards and have 9 pieces of gear to improve his his stats for the final monster combat, right? Right. Shuffle the shops. Or rest. So I think that's the core gameplay loop, because that is what players are going to spend their most of their time doing, is preparing, going on quests, collecting gear and power-ups, preparing for epic monster combat, and then if they win 3 EMCs, if they win 3 MCs, game over, players win. So, in another game, like let's take Mario for example, the core gameplay loop is move right and jump, right? Simple. Move to the right side of the screen and jump. Whether you're jumping over obstacles or onto enemies, those obstacles and those enemies are just modifiers on the core gameplay loop, and then it's modified per level, because if you're on a water level, because water levels allow you to essentially jump fly, and underground levels limit your jumping. But the goal is the same. Move right. Move all the way to the right. So like Doom, or Wolfenstein, the core gameplay loop is open a door, clear area of monsters, repeat till exit. So this core gameplay loop is take a turn, collect gear, power-ups, all to prepare for epic monster combat. Win 3 epic monster combats, game over. Boom, you win. So what do I need for the minimum viable product? Well, under cards, in order to have the minimum amount of product to be able to sell, I'm going to need character classes, quest cards, epic monsters, equipment cards, feats, character classes, quest cards, epic monster cards, equipment cards, feats. Okay, that's the bare minimum of what I need. So we have the core gameplay loop. Today we can go into depth on character classes. We'll probably do more than necessary. That's fine. And then, I don't know, maybe next week we'll go into quest cards, or we'll go... Yeah, we should go into quest cards, because I think that is where the fun will be. Like, the fun will be in the quests. Fun, humor, excitement. Whereas the epic monsters will provide challenge and achievement. Okay, I need to get better at this. Alright, so at the very least we can go over and we can cover, let's say what our basic character classes are. Let's create those. So, character classes. So, character classes, let's have a Paladin. Let's learn to spell. Let's have a Paladin. Let's have a Rogue. Let's have a Wizard. Or I'm going to call it a Mage. Paladin, Rogue, Mage, Barbarian, Cleric, yeah, okay, and then we can add other classes later, like a Bard, but we should at least have these 5 to choose from right now. So, Paladin, let's start there. What is a Paladin? So a Paladin, a beacon of moral good. Now, similar to D&D, right? Each of the character classes should have innate stats that will help them complete quests, overcome challenges, defeat monsters, have bonuses to things like that. So let's talk about innate bonuses. Plus X to evil monsters against evil. Takes X less damage. Evil sources. Things like that. We want each class to have hit die. So for right now, let's probably just make this D10. Across all the classes. Now, I don't expect... Now, since most of this core gameplay loop will be single players choosing and being able to encounter combat in and of them on their own and 1v1 in order for the final team up for the epic monster combat. So each class should have enough hit points that they're able to take damage from a combat that if one was to appear during a quest. And I don't know, we'll have to go through that once we start making the quest cards of the ratio of combat to non-combat quests that appear. So that'll be some work. But that's what we're here on stream to do. We're here to work. And hopefully not be crazy too much and be a little bit entertaining in the process. So, okay. Okay, so each character class will need stats. So what are the stats? Constitution. Constitution, strength, wisdom, dexterity, intelligence, now whatever these numbers end up being, will only have effect for specific quests, specific combats, as well as epic monster combat. An assassin class might be fun to work on later. I think we'll have some real trouble with the magic system. Yeah, I think the magic system will probably be some real trouble. But okay, moving on. Okay, since I don't know what else to do right now, let's try to roll the intro one more time, and then we'll talk about Bartlett's taxonomy. And hopefully at the end of this, I'll be able to have a 10-minute YouTube video and drive more people to this channel so that I'm not sitting alone talking to myself and going absolutely knocking fuss. Hello and welcome to the HPVO show, where we'll be doing live development on stream every Friday, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, where we'll be developing a 4-player card game from scratch. This is a cooperative card game where the end goal is for each play session, 4 players get together, go on quests, collect gear, level up feats, improve their stats, and all in preparation for epic monster combat. 3 rounds of epic monster combat, and the player team is successful, and the game is over. That is the core concept behind this 4-player card game. So that should be cool. This stream is me talking about game development topics as well as developing live on stream, the pieces needed, as needed, for us to have a viable product by about June for kickstarting and selling. So that is the purpose of this stream. I hope you'll come and join us if you're watching this on YouTube or if you're watching this on the VOD. Next Friday, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, for just chatting and fun about video games. Alright, so I wanted to talk about Bartlett's taxonomy and why it is very important to not just this game, but every game. Bartlett's taxonomy consists of 4 players type. You have social, killers, achievers, explorers. Now, this man Bartlett, in the ancient days of multi-user dungeons, wanted to find out why people were playing this game. And what he found was that while everybody had different reasons, each of those reasons could be separated into one of 4 categories. Some were playing for the social aspect, which is what anyone in Twitch chat is really here for. They're a social player. They'd rather enjoy a social experience. They're here to watch their favorite broadcasters and be a part of a community. That is a social need they're filling. That is the reason why they play games. It's to fill that social need. Then you have achievers, whose end goal is to min-max, to have the best character, to climb the leaderboards, to achieve the highest possible goal. Then you have the killers, whose goal is to dominate, whether it be the NPCs or the bosses or other player groups. Their goal is to prove dominance and kill people. Right? Call of Duty, full of killers and achievers. Achievers want to climb the leaderboard, and killers want to noob tube them into oblivion. That's pretty fair. Explorers set out their own goals and achieve those. Now, a good MMO has a healthy balance of each, but some MMOs have more than one player type. Now, if your game just has people in social category, you're not going to get dungeons destroyed. In fact, some of those players may even just leave the game so you don't have active users, and will spend more time talking about the game on Twitch, or more time talking about the game on forums, and more community involvement. Now, if you have a game that's just killers, you're going to have a very toxic environment where nobody's goal is to climb the leaderboards. Their goals are only dominance, dominance, dominance. Oh yeah, achievers are kind of like speedrunners. Speedrunners are probably always achievers. Now this is exactly why I want to do a 4-player card game, is because I think a 4-player card game has a good chance of having 1 to 2 social players. And the reason why this is important is because if this card game is to succeed on the market, it will need word-of-mouth advertising. And who better to advertise and play with friends than the social players? Like, yeah, so it seems pretty simple. So I will need to do things to make sure that the social players are favored to and catered to. Twitch, for example, is perfect for that, because anybody watching this Twitch stream live in chat is here exactly for that social experience. So if anyone here on Twitch or leaves a YouTube, or if you're here and you leave a YouTube comment, you are a social player. Whether your YouTube comment is standard YouTube telling me to go kill myself or something silly like that, or if you have a game suggestion or something else that I should cover, you're still a social player. You are fulfilling a social need. So that'd be super cool. So if you're watching this on YouTube, go ahead and leave a comment and tell me why you're not a social player, why you're a killer, and why I suck, and why killers are the best, because they dominate. Though personally I think killers are the worst, because you constantly have to prove over and over again and ruin other people's days. So I hope if you're watching this, in your sidebar there's the extra credits video on Bartlett's taxonomy, because that is an excellent starting point, just about 10 minutes long, about how exactly all of this works. They do a much better job explaining it than me, and they're animated, whereas this is just text on screen. Or and post, I can probably make this a little bit more entertaining. So there are certain things I can do to make this fun for each of the types. Of course, achievers. So here's what I'm doing for the social players. I'm live on Twitch. Other things I could do is operate a forum. Where people could come together and discuss how this quest is overpowered and how this change in home rule sets works better for their team, or how this custom character class is a lot of fun. Somebody created a cyborg custom character class. Cool. So, essentially, as long as the game is fun, and there is a place to gather, social players should have their needs met and should find their way into this, whatever this is that we're building right now. So that's how I plan to take care of social players. Now, achievers, things I could do specific for them is we could hold tournaments where you have players competing against the game. The game itself is players competing against the deck. But if you held a tournament where, say, after three rounds of epic monster combat, each team is scored on remaining life total. Now you have a concrete objective for achievers to achieve, and you can devise a ranking system from this. So that'll take care of them. Killers. Now, if I place a few specific quests for their domination playstyle, maybe that'll satisfy them. See, one of the big issues with killers is, in general, their fun is derived from the suffering of other players. So if a killer's fun is the suffering of other players, then they're not going to be very good for a 4-player cooperative card game. But they will probably find Munchkins a blast, or Dungeons and Dragons, because they could wait until the very end to reveal they were working for Sauron all along and betray their team and complete a epic narrative arc, as well as get satisfaction destroying everyone in their team. Now, I know I'm an explorer type myself, because I always set my own objectives. When I play a game, I'm there to figure it out. I learn the systems quickly. I learn how to min-max it. But the trouble with explorers is explorers keep exploring. So unless your game has enough systems and enough things for them to do and create their own quests, their own objectives, then explorers are likely to move on very quickly to whatever's new. So I don't think this game will be great for explorers, because they could probably just read all the cards themselves, and after a few games there won't be much incentive to play another round, because they'll understand, like, oh, okay, well, if I play this character class and he plays that one and we all get together, then we might lose 15% of the games or 10% of the games, or if we play this way, then we can make it past round 3. So the way to optimally play is this. And while explorers are really good for achievers, because explorers tend to map out the area, and explorers will experiment with what changes are made to a game. If you have an online game, a new patch just came out, explorers are the ones who are going to test things to make sure, like, okay, this is that way, this is that way, and they will then pass that information on to the achievers, who are trying to climb the ladder. So explorers will pass that information on to achievers, so that achievers can have the best builds possible and be min-max. Speedrunners. So I think in order for this game to have long-term sustainability, as in people will want to play it over and over again, you'll have to build in a you'll have to build in a system of expansion. And if you build in a system of expansion, say every 6 months, you release an addendum of new epic monsters and new quest cards. Right, like a completely new line of quests, then there will be new systems and mechanics for them to understand, and so they'll come back and they'll try it out. Because you're not going to keep an explorer engaged for a very long time unless you refresh and you add new things. Just like you're going to lose social players if you don't have a community. If you don't have a place for social players to gather, then social players are just going to find another game, join that community, and hang around those people. And if you don't have any other players at all, you're not going to have killers playing your game. Because while killers like killing killers, killers also like killing achievers. You'll probably know if you have a killer in your group if they pick a rogue or assassin class. Which is fine. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, you know. Ooh. Another thing we can do for killers is killers like unfair advantages. Because again, a killer wants to dominate. So if a killer has an unfair advantage going into a combat or going in to a space, even if it only seems like there's an unfair advantage, whereas everything else is level because, let's say, I give the rogues and assassin classes less health. But if they're able to collect twice as much gear or learn skills twice as fast, then that'll seem like they have an unfair advantage, though they could just be glass and shatter in the epic monster combat very quickly. But the killers themselves will like that feeling of, oh, I have 6 pieces of gear. I have more gear than other players. They'll have a tangible proof in front of them that they are doing better than other players, though they're not. It's just smoke and mirrors. Which we know because we're making the game, but the end user, the people playing the game, might not have any idea. Okay, so I think that's the end of this Bartlett taxonomy talk. If you're watching this on YouTube, go ahead and like and subscribe to this channel for more cuts and clips and streams like this. I'll be streaming live every Friday, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to 5 p.m. I hope you'll come and join us, where we can talk about game development topics as well as develop live on stream a 4-player card game, Adventures in the Freelands. I hope for it to be a lot of fun, and I hope to see you there. Leave a comment down in the description, and maybe I'll do something about it. Maybe. I don't know. Much love. Alright, let's just copy this. Alright, let's copy that. And let's get back to creating character classes. So right now I just want a rough outline of what each of the classes will be. Oh, and let's keep it on topic. So what is each of the classes going to appeal to? How is each of the classes going to appeal to a type of player? Now, a Paladin could appear like social players are playing for the social aspect, so Paladin probably appeal to them. Achievers, social achievers, and not so much killers, and not so much explorers. Now the thing with stats is, again, these are just going to be filler stats until play testing to find the right balance, because we won't know exactly what stats will do until we start fleshing out a few of the initial quests. I think we'll focus on that next week. We'll do quests and storytelling next week, so that we can have, hopefully at the end of next week, 10 quests, so that we can have a good sample size of each of the types of quests, non-combat, combat quests, as well as we'll just keep that as the focus for next week. So the stats right now are filler until we decide the exact numbers of what would be good. So probably 10s for everybody. So what matters is that we have enough character classes that this is familiar to seasoned D&D players, and not too many that it isn't intimidating which class you should choose. Like having a rogue and assassin, right? They're very, very similar. So we'll probably not want to do that until we start doing expansions. But at the very least, with these 5 classes, oh, and we don't need to do a fighter. Maybe we do need to do a fighter. A fighter is pretty basic. A rogue right now will essentially be a thief, but yeah, that's good for right now. I think rogues will appeal to killers, explorers, and of course social. Now, since this is killer class, innate bonuses, probably want them to gather more loot. Have advantage in non-combat. And cool feats. Perhaps double the effect of the feat. Playing a rogue should feel like you're cheating. And if it feels like you're cheating, then it'll probably feel good. So, again, stats. copy and paste that again. Cleric. Team healer. Magic shielder. Dominator of NPCs. Okay, I think that's good. Now cleric is not going to appeal to killers at all. Right? Like a killer in World of Warcraft would be a shadow mage only, even though people want them to heal. Right? So this is one of the problems, like a killer will probably only appeal to the social classes. Cleric will probably only appeal to the social classes. Right? That makes sense. And innate bonuses. I don't know how to spell pacifist. I'll be right back. Man, it'd be nice if I could use Word. So, what would a pacifist bonus be? Bonus gear or extra action for resolving non-combat quests. Okay. Yeah, I think that describes a pacifist bonus. How about they're able to trade their actions to other players to allow those players to rest and go on more quests and gear up further. This is a cooperative game after all, and so rather than having a cleric use their actions, if the cleric was just able to give more actions to other players, that might be interesting. So yeah, that's what we'll do. Able to trade. Able to trade actions to other players. Okay. And again, right now stats don't matter. We'll probably change them so the clerics have more wisdom and intelligence, and less strength and dexterity, as long as it's balanced at the end. But until we start initially playtesting and running through the quests and seeing, okay, we should adjust this number a little bit so that it's quite clear that the rogue has an advantage here, and it's quite clear that the barbarian does not. But at the end of the day, all things should be possible, air quotes. Like, it should be possible to have a non-pacifist cleric who just absolutely wrecks the field. But again, like, that shouldn't be the core reason you have a cleric on your team. Yeah, cleric might appeal to achievers as well if we're able to actually do some sort of tournament system. Because if our tournament turns out to be just focused on having the highest life total after 3 epic monster combats, then 4 clerics running in there might be the way the players decide to do that, and then heal up immensely at the end, or be able to shield themselves so that they take no damage and they have the highest life total. Like, I don't know. I don't know exactly how all of this will play out, because as soon as a game is released, players will break it. So whatever systems we design, as long as we design the core gameplay loop to be fun, going on quests, defeating epic monsters, as long as that is fun, right? As long as each character class feels unique, and there is a sense of achievement at the end of defeating 3 epic monsters, and at the same time a little bit of wonder of, oh, I wonder if we can do this again. I wonder what would happen if I saw that Jeff got a double claw magic staff. What if my barbarian got that double claw magic staff? Like, as long as there's those questions left over, and then the game should have replayability. So that'll be cool. Okay, so what do we have? Cleric. We need the barbarian, the mage, and the fighter. Now, typically the fighter is good all around, but not great at anything. Oddly enough, I think fighters appeal to explorers because they allow explorers to test whatever system fascinates them. So and if it turns out it's overpowered, then it'll appeal to achievers. And if it turns out you can ruin other people's days, it'll appeal to killers. But yeah, I think just leaving it at that is good for now. Innate bonuses. So let's let them learn a feat for free if they completed a quest. Maybe. Able to use any equipment. Okay. Yeah, I think that's fine for right now. Barbarian. Oh yeah, we should probably put this in. Probably want our Paladin to have a minor heal. Of course. Whatever that means at this point in time. Barbarians would be the combat front line. Extra damage in combat. Yeah, I don't know what else to put there. Yeah, so extra damage in combat, that's all I got for that right now. Oh, and the mage, of course. And the mage will be our spellcaster class. Which I think will apply to killers, achievers, and explorers. Predominantly. So I don't know how I'm going to do the magic system yet, but I think for right now, how about each feat is also a spell, but a specific spell that only the mage or a spellcaster can cast. But that means a mage can't use any of the feats. So like, for example, let's say we have a feat, Expert Climber. For a mage, we might want this to be Featherfall or similar. Right, so the mage can't climb, but the mage can fall from great heights or cast Featherfall. So I think that might work. That might be fair. Now, what are the problems with this? Now I see problems being crowded cards. So I see the problems being crowded cards. I see the problems being I see a problem being the mage has all the cool stuff. Like, I know in Dungeons and Dragons there is a problem with if you have a fighter and a mage. By level 10, the mage has access to way more abilities, spells, powers than a fighter would. You have linear fighters and quadratic spellcasters. I think that's the way it's referred to. where if you have a graph, you have fighters just going up at a steady rate, whereas mages progress like that, and they become super powerful way earlier than fighters. Linear fighters, quadratic mages. So I think we won't know until playtesting, but experted. But I think that might be fair. Now, if we give them a big drawback, like unable to use gear, that would make a lot of sense. Unable to wear armor, unable to use a bow and arrow, unable to wield a sword. Yeah, that'll be interesting for right now. Oh, and I think I think a solution to the crowded cards would be the cards explain everything for all the other players, but we put just a mage note on the card and have a spellbook. This way it explains all the stats. The feat card explains everything you need to know as an expert climber, so that we have the other 5 members of the group, or the other 3 members, because I do hope this is not only a 4-player card game. So you have the other 3 members who know what expert climber means, and you have the mage who only cares about the feather fall. So yeah, I think that covers innate bonuses for a mage class. Now I do have some open-ended questions that just appeared. Should some of the cards be soft locked to stats? Or should they be progressive based on stats? Now this means you can't use a feat if you don't have a dexterity requirement. Or should we make a feat less viable if you don't have that dexterity requirement? Now, again, I don't want anything to be specifically class locked, So, except for the spellcasting. Spellcasting should be class locked, and the cleric spells as well. Now, for right now, we'll make cleric spells innate. Cleric should already start with them. But locked, or again, stat affected. For example, heal equals so if a heal equals a roll of a d3 plus their wisdom, or wisdom d3. Yeah, I'm going to highlight that. Because, yeah, that'll be a math problem. Now, again, I want this game to be a little bit more complex than Munchkins, so I want this game to incorporate die, but I don't want it to be as in-depth as Dungeons and Dragons. And I certainly want to be able to... As long as this game is able to be picked up by 4 brand new users and a complete session ends in 60 minutes, I think that's the goal I'm striving for right now, so that's where we're at with that. So yeah, we'll have to address these open-ended questions when we get into the quests and the rewards for quests themselves. So, if you're watching this on YouTube, let me know what you would rather see. Whether you'd rather see spells and feats characters can't use at all based on their class, or rather you'd rather see them able to use them, but have it be modified in some fashion by what they're playing or how they're playing and how lucky they've gotten with that. So which would you rather see? Let me know. That'll be it. This is the end of episode 1, essentially, and